please stand or recite the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ashley, can I have roll call, please?
Briggs. Briggs.
Here.
Cavalier.
Here.
Alt. Here. Platt.
Here.
Menard.
Here.
Bimba.
Here.
Jurdies. Fisher.
Here.
Okay, it's time for the open forum. If anyone would like to address council on any issue not already on tonight's agenda, may come to the podium, state your first, last name, and address, please.
Michelle Christofferson, University of Minnesota Crookston. I just wanted to lift up, and I have some flyers on the back table, that the University of Minnesota Crookston is sponsoring, or hosting rather, a register to vote on September 16th and September 17th. There are dates and times on that flyer, but there will be locations downtown at the Nest at 101 North Broadway, the Golden Link, and then also on the University of Minnesota Crookston's campus. As part of the university's initiative to become more engaged within the community and through voter engagement, the university is also hosting, along with Empower Crookston, a Meet the Candidates Forum on Wednesday, October 2nd from 6 until 8 p.m. If you're able, we'd love to have you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the chamber? Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Carol Gray. I'm a resident of Ward 2 and pretty much a daily swimmer for the last 28 years. And when I was thinking about coming tonight, I was thinking, I was here about a year and a half ago pleading for the pool, and obviously got quite a good reception in that the council and the administration decided to take a very bold action in hiring a new director at that time. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, but I do want to thank you, the council, and the mayor for taking that step, because it gave us some time, in a sense, to organize and to move forward. As I mentioned, and as we all know, that situation did not end happily, but it also allowed for another great opportunity, as evidenced by the staff, your staff, Scott and Andrea and
Jake.
Jake. Thank you. Really stepped up. I mean, like, amazing. The pool, you could feel the difference walking into the pool the first of the year as opposed to those months prior. And we got so that we could count on coming to the pool, because it would be open and it would be staffed. It was an amazing experience, I have to say, after struggling for those many months. And in response to that energy, we started an organization, basically a pool booster organization. We call it Crookston Fin and Fit. And our goal was to raise money to support and to supplement monies that the city might need to make to keep the pool running or to make improvements. Our other goal in organizing was to build awareness of the pool and to build usage of the pool. We feel that we've been quite successful in those regards. Obviously, the monies that we're talking about are rather humble, but we have committed to paying for a part, for a control part for $5,100 that will be installed at the pool, that will, I believe, equalize the temperatures and actually have some other positive effects on the pool operation. So we've been able to raise some amount of money, and we've also really felt like we've increased awareness and participation at the pool. In fact, I just learned today that there were over 140 swimmers who took lessons this summer. And That's significant in that those are individuals. There were some people that actually took lessons more than once, so your actual paid lesson count would be somewhat higher. But people are learning about the pool, they're experiencing the pool, and they're having a great experience. And we plan to continue to do that as a group and as an organization. We understand that, as always, the budget is a concern, and we are sharing that concern. But we also want to participate and be part of the solution, and we plan to continue to do that. So thank you, and keep up the good work, and we'll see you at the pool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from council chambers? Anybody on the phone bridge? Nate?
on the phone bridge, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, this brings us to the agenda. Does anyone wish to add anything to tonight's agenda?
Your Honor, if we could add under 8.03, a resolution regarding approving Jeff Schubert's choice to be excluded from participating in the PERA coordinated plan.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Henry. Discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Alt, Clot,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Hidma,
Aye.
Jurdy, Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. This brings us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved, Your Honor. Second, Your Honor.
Clayton and Don, thank you. Roll call, please.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Alt, Clot,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Hidma,
Aye.
Jurdy, Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Public hearings, regular agenda. Ashley, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Item 8.01 is a resolution authorizing the acquisition of the real property and demolition of the structure located at 429 Riverside Avenue.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this
So
resolution?
moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Clayton. Discussion. Jeff, you got an update on this?
I do not have anything further than what council is already aware. I believe this is a FEMA, if I have the right property, this is the FEMA property being.
And Chuck has some information
And Chuck
as well.
has more information. Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, no worries. I can speak on it a little bit. So yeah, this is the property at 429 Riverside that's just been flooded. I don't know how many years. The city took action a while back before my time to have it demoed, do that process. I've been working with Corky and Brandon, acquiring all the documentation on it, and we finally are able to move forward with that process.
Thank you.
Yep.
Further discussion?
This thing tonight, will that take care of it then?
What's that?
Will the action tonight take care of that? That'll be done then?
Yep, so the action tonight is to, on the resolution, it's to acquire, for the city to acquire the property. And then we'll have to get some signatures, and then it will no longer be in the resident's name. It'll be city property. From there, once we pass the other resolution, if that passes, we will proceed with demoing the house.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I have roll call, please?
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Alt, Clot,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Hidma,
Aye.
Jurdy, Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.02 is a resolution regarding a conditional use permit with respect to parcel 82.00169.00.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this
Motion,
resolution?
Your Honor.
Thank you, Don. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Wendy. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, what we have in front of us is a request for a conditional use permit that was tabled at the previous meeting. Greg has just passed out some informational packets relating to the properties. Upon staff review of the comp plan regarding ground floor or first floor residential, while it is true that we have previously approved the ground floor residential in the business district, that approval predates our current comp plan. So the current comp plan superseded the comp plan in place at that point in time. And on review, the decision matrix that staff use, the Crookston Tomorrow 2035 plan identifies criteria for features and location for the central business district. A mix of land uses to include primarily commercial, office, and limited upper level residential. What you have in front of you on paper, the bold, is the emphasis is added. That is not part of the comp plan. I bolded that because even upper level residential, according to our comp plan, is not intended to be automatic. The district itself may expand with appropriately designed adjacent properties, which means as our business district expands, we can expand our businesses. If they grow, we can expand our business district. Historic preservation is a significant value. It appears to be identified in the plan that the central business district area is intended to be a focal point for business with only limited residential and limited to upper floors. Additionally, first floor apartments in the central business district must be approved by a planned unit development, which this property is not located in a PUD. There is one clause which would permit a first floor residence, and that is 152.50.C.8. Other uses which, in the opinion of the Planning Commission and the Council, are of the same general character as the permitted uses and which will not be detrimental to the central business district or any other district. With this information in mind, that the staff recommendation is to not approve the conditional use permit, as it does not meet the criteria set forth in both our comp plan and within our zoning code.
Thank you.
I'm Andy with Up North Investments. You guys know I was here last week. I have talked to Greg in depth. Next possible day afterwards, he was gonna put together some more information. Unfortunately, he was sick. He was unable to do so, so he had Mr. Jeff go ahead and put some stuff together. But we did bring the notes from the committee meeting with all the positives and negatives. I don't believe that it is on a main street. I mean, I did look back on a previous map that looks like it was 2012. It was rented to a barber shop. Ever since then, it's been, and so, I mean, we're talking 12, 14 years. I don't know what else to do with the property. Like I said before, Aluma's begged me, and as far as handicap accessibility, they have the ability for that. I don't know what the regulation is as far as main floor. There is steps to get up into it, so, I believe, talking with Greg, I think it's a good idea. You guys had mentioned last week that you want a definition of the exact area. And if you see the map, that gives you the definition. It'd be my request to approve it with further, however Greg or the council would like to word it. I don't have any intention of doing the frontage. I mean, that's definitely a retail space. Goldmark has been in there for years, it's rented. I think if Goldmark was to move out, I could put another commercial property in there, because they have frontage. This particular area of the building, there's no commercial that wants to be in it. So like I said, I would like to move forward, and if you guys would like to put in extra wording to make sure that it is just unit 5, that would be great. there's any other questions or we're here for open discussion.
Is there any other records of anything being in there since 2012, or has it been sitting vacant for
It's been vacant.
14 years?
I would also say though, just to take into consideration that there's other properties along that stretch that have back retail spaces that haven't been rented for 5 to 6 years. And I think that whatever decision you're making here has to be setting a precedence for other things as well. So this isn't like a one-off situation. This is gonna be us having to take into consideration the comprehensive plan and then making a decision going forward, not necessarily for this particular situation, but for all situations that will come up after this. So whatever council decides, I think that needs to be considered as well.
And I think there's a reason we have a comprehensive plan for a reason. There's a direction we want to go. And to do the one-offs against the comprehensive plan, it just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I tend to want to follow the direction of the city staff's recommendation.
Well, I think if you approve this one and then it ends up being more first floor apartments down the road and we end up going case by case and we wouldn't be following the comp plan at all.
Well, and then I don't know if you could go case by case because you already set the precedence, right? I think that would be the concern. So, but I know like 2 right now that are first floor spaces that haven't been able to rent for like the last 5-6 years. So I just could see this really spiraling into something else.
I don't know if I should be used as the example going forward. I mean,
Well, it's not about being an example.
driving up and down Main Street, Broadway and Main, I mean, look at the retail spaces. Anyone that's gonna come into this town is gonna move into a main road building.
And I understand that, but that's what I'm saying though. If we're making an exception here, we can't not make an exception for the next person who asks the same thing because they have a space that hasn't been able to be rented for the last 5 or 6 years. You know, and I know it's not what you want to hear, but at the same time, I think we also have to really take into account the things that are happening and what that also then sets going forward for other individuals who are requesting a similar.
How high do you have to be not considered main floor?
I don't know, Greg, do you have,
Basically, it's within a foot or two of the base, I would say, but 1 or 2 steps I would consider first floor, so. But
sure,
that's kind of you could get half floors, I think, get arbitrary.
yeah.
We could definitely raise the floor. I mean, I don't know what else to do with the property. Unless the council has a suggestion. I
Have
mean,
you worked with Carrie about looking to bring in economics and to help, see if Carrie can help find businesses?
not directly with Terry, but I mean, Jay has worked on it for years. He was able to rent it to Express personnel for 1 month during the campaign. It's just, I don't know. I mean, rent, you're talking $400 a month, which is fine, but you can't even get anyone in at that.
I guess, I mean, where I'm at is I hate a building sitting there for, what would that be, 14 years now? I mean, that just seems crazy. But also to the point of the comp plan, like we have one for a reason and looking for an extreme reason. Is a building sitting there for 14 years vacant an extreme reason? I will say, looking at the housing studies, talking to different people within the housing department, from their perspective, it is, I mean, I understand where Aluma is saying that it's needed, but from the housing study, I don't think we're exactly at that point. That isn't the housing that is needed within here. I think just, would we consider a building sitting vacant for 14 years extreme? And then that does put into the precedent, at what point does it become, you've been sitting vacant for 2 years, that's not extreme, and
But
setting that
it's not a
precedent.
building, right? It's also a space
A
within a
space,
building,
yeah.
right? So I think you want to clarify that as well.
Correct.
I think the other piece that I have is that, like, if I owned a building, like, it's not the city's responsibility to make sure that it's filled, right? I take on that responsibility as a business owner to decide whether or not something's rented or not, right?
Yeah.
And
it
when you
looks
go
like-
into it and looking at
Looks like Mr. Nimitz has that storage unit A And why not consider adding another storage unit in B? I mean, if he's been able to rent a storage unit, why not?
Storage unit A.
It says
Well,
Martin
Which
storage.
one's on your map?
That was a fire department map, it's older, it's not probably up to date, it's just showing the state.
Yeah, there's no storage. I've tried heated storage. And there's no storage unit in there.
Oh, okay.
And there is a ability, I mean, it's got high ceilings, we can raise the floor. If the floor is gonna be 4 feet off the, raise the floor up 4 feet, then it's not on the floor anymore.
Would that then cause the problem though, you're looking for this for accessibility?
Wasn't that the original argument?
It's housing and accessibility, yeah.
Well, I mean, based on what we've been hearing, I would like to make a motion that we decline this request because it goes against the downtown comp plan.
All right, I got a motion, so we'll call for the vote and the yay and nay.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you, once you call, so the motion right now is by Councilmember Cavalier and seconded by Councilmember Alt. And what this is whether or not if you wish to move this resolution forward as is. So again, so you would vote accordingly.
So, just to clarify,
Yes.
aye means you're approving it, nay
Correct.
means you're denying it,
Correct,
just for council's clarification.
correct.
Okay, let's call for the vote.
Briggs,
Nay.
Cavalier,
Nay.
Alt. Nay. Plot,
Nay.
Menard,
Nay.
Hibba,
Nay.
Jurdy,
Nay.
Fisher.
Nay.
Motion carries.
No, it does not carry, it does not carry, Your Honor. It
Fails, sorry.
Yes.
Well, wish you guys luck. Thank you. I think your system, your planning and zoning is backwards, but. So,
Well, I hope
we'll see if we
when
can
we're,
rent it for free and get somebody in there.
we are reviewing our comprehensive plan, so that'll be a conversation that we're having about those types of things, so hopefully maybe in the future.
I would reach out to Carrie because she may know somebody that's been looking to come in that has been looking for space to rent in, or she's
There's
helped.
plenty of space in Crookston. So, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for your time.
Item 8.03 is a resolution regarding approving Jeff Schubridge's choice to be excluded from participating in the PERA coordinated plan, Your Honor.
Motion to approve this resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Christie, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Henry, thank you. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is an administrative process. As a city manager, or a city administrator, PARA provides the opportunity for me to be in either the coordinated plan, an investment plan, or no plan at all. I have elected to be in the defined contribution plan, which is an investment plan and not a coordinated pension plan. I have much faith in our American economic system, and I think a stock index fund is more beneficial for my family. However, it does require a resolution from the council saying that they are in concurrence and allowing of me. It does not change any. Actually, it saves this, by going into the defined contribution plan, it saves the city 1%. Because the match is 1%, I believe the match for general coordinated plan is 7.5% and mine is 6.5. So I would ask the council's permission to be in the defined contribution plan.
And is that an option for everyone?
No, ma'am. It is defined under statute for doctors, city managers, and elected officials.
So every city administrator that has been through the door, yes, that has been an opportunity for them to be able to elect that, yes.
Do they have to have a resolution every time?
So this is the first time we've ever had a city administrator elect.
Interested in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Further discussion? Hearing none, can I roll call, please?
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Alt. Aye. Plot,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Hibma,
Aye.
Jurdy,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, this brings us to reports. Jeff?
Mayor, members of the council, I've been working diligently on the budget. We have some updated numbers for this evening's budget workshop. Would like to announce that I have offered after review of applicants and holding interviews. And I held off for about another week and a half after to see if any other qualified applicants would come in to ensure that we had the best net possible while still maintaining operations of the city. I have offered, and the candidate has tentatively accepted the offer for our HR coordinator position. Her current position is ending with her company, they're relocating, and so she will be available to begin on the 23rd.
And she did HR before here?
Pardon?
She was in HR before here?
She was the HR coordinator for a business carrying about 200 employees.
Okay.
What I found very, let's see, what's the best word for it, encouraging, was I showed her the HR office and its condition, and she was excited at the opportunity to bring it into organization. So.
And so when is her start date?
Tentatively the 23rd.
The 23rd?
Pending background. Tina has sent out the background authorization to her this morning.
Anything else, Jeff?
No, looking forward to moving on with our budget discussion. I've got some overviews and possibilities, and I'm pleased to say, as we'll go over later tonight, I've gotten much more in line with where we need to be.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, do we have any updates on audit? Are we still on track?
Actually, we're anticipating, Lance, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're anticipating a strong possibility of a draft this week.
Perfect, wonderful, thank you.
Okay, Shane, anything tonight? Hidden behind the post.
And while Shane is walking up, members of the council, we also do have the union negotiations beginning. I've been in contact with the police and we're scheduling up. Their union rep is not available until after the 15th. However, we'll be moving forward. I do have an informal discussion scheduled for that, but we will be moving forward.
Thank you.
We did respond last week to a fire call at the Crookston pool. I do want to commend Miss Abrahamson, the employee that was working there. We reviewed her actions and she did exactly what we would have expected her to do. She alerted all the occupants that were in the pool, told them to get out of the pool, get them away, to have them evacuate the building. Of course, there was swim class going on at the time, so I think there was a bunch of ladies in the pool. So trying to get them out of the pool, through the locker room, and then get them outside, she was able to do that. There was actual staff that was there changing filters. She was able to alert them and notify them that they needed to get out. She then took a fire extinguisher and she went and fought the fire, and then she got out. She saved a lot of damage and she did everything right. I know she was nervous, but she did exactly what we would have expected to do. From the report that came in and to when we got there, the scene had completely changed and it was well under control. We were able to go in, simple investigation, to be able to figure that out. So I just want to commend her for that. We will be setting up, as you guys know on the calendar, 9/11's coming. So tomorrow night, we're going to be setting up our memorial and stuff at both the fire stations. I just got back today. Me and the association president, Matt Johnson, went down to St. Michael, Minnesota today. We were the recipient from the Minnesota Firefighter Foundation for the particulate hoods that firefighters wear. We received the grant to get everybody a new particulate hood. So we went down there today and got those. So I want to thank the Minnesota Firefighters Foundation for that. And then lastly, we conducted training last Thursday at American Crystal. We did confined space training and some rappelling. And it was always nice to get into a scenario where it's loud, extremely hot because that factory's up and rolling. It was really nice to be able to get in and train with that type of a scenario. So I want to thank American Crystal for allowing us to do that. That's all I got.
Thank you. Zach, anything?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Greg?
Just a real quick reminder, planning committee is next Tuesday, September 17th. I don't want to jump ahead that far. And a couple of items on rezoning and a conditional use, so, and then plus some land determination for future as well, so just keep that in mind.
In the future, when it comes to conditional use permits, is the planning commission gonna be made fully aware of the comprehensive plans that we have, so we don't?
I will if it's, basically, if it's in the ordinances showing conditional use, it's basically, I've been approved for the comprehensive plan, but this one was kind of an odd duck, really. It's we've had previous usages of apartments in the back, alleys, for example, in the first floor, and it's been kind of a difficult one to traverse.
Because during the meeting, it just didn't seem like the planning commission was fully made aware of it was against the comprehensive plan until the mayor brought it up on a side note. So I just want to make sure going forward that.
I will point out that in my planning meeting notes, I don't have that for here today, but it did point that out.
Okay.
That it was not.
Members of the council, yeah, if I may, I've spoken with Greg and we have worked out a plan to ensure that all aspects are reviewed prior. Greg's experience is he is our building official, his experience is in building plans review and codes. I have experience in training in land use and zoning, so we will be working together in the future to ensure that all aspects are presented appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Appreciate that. Any other questions?
Very good.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Craig.
Jake, anything?
Just a couple things. Thank you. As you all know, Fire Chief we did have a fire at the pool. The water heater that we purchased in 2023 started on fire underneath. Flames got up about halfway. Not sure how it happened. I have insurance claim in, and then I also talked with H&N Quality Plumbing for a warranty. So the ball is moving forward with all that. I just want to say thank you to obviously Amanda and then Trish Erdman as well. They took control of the scene, and there was 18 people in the facility, and they got them all out and then took control of the fire. So it could have been a lot worse, I think, where the fire was in the boiler room. It could have been a lot worse. So thank you for them for that.
And Jake, just to clarify, this just means that there are no hot showers.
Correct.
The pool is still.
The boiler is, the main boiler is what heats the pool.
Yeah.
And then the water heater heats the, sinks and showers and stuff. So we do not have hot water currently, but we are working on it to get a new water heater, so.
How much damage was there?
To the water heater?
Well, just the whole.
Nothing else besides the water heater. It was, the water heater's toast.
Is it a natural gas water heater?
Yeah. So, we did start the compressor last week. UMC will be taking over, they'll be renting the ice starting September 16th, so next Monday. So we are building ice in the event rink currently. And then, Derek Jansen is parting ways with the city. So I have an open position. We opened it today internally. And it will be closing next Monday at 4:30. So we're following the guidelines. We're opening it up for 7 days internally and seeing if we get any applicants. So
What was his position?
he was an MS maintenance 2. So that's all I have.
Jake, a couple meetings ago, I asked about the tennis court up there. Did you look at anything up there?
We took care of what you asked for. We got rid of the limb that you said, and then we cut around some areas.
So is the lights working properly?
The lights are working properly, but the lights are very old. They could, you know, they need some upgrading in the future. We do have like a timer set on them, so they come on at a certain time and then we shut them off. But they are, they need some work. They need, you know how we updated the Carton Field with the Baseball Association? I believe, in the future, we should look into something like that because they are.
That's something you gotta probably put in the budget to get done. Is it gonna be that expensive?
It's gotta be a CIP. You know, my first year here, I did get a quote for that at that time. In 2021, it was roughly 25,000, 26,000 to get up-to-date lights and things like that, so.
Hey Jake, can you also give us an update on the community room and the CSC?
Yes, so the community room was turned into a shooting room. Also, it can be used for figure skating. About 3 years ago, our Blue Line Club donated synthetic ice to the Park and Rec. And with that synthetic ice, you can put your skates on and you can actually skate on it in off seasons or during the season when you want to train. The community room hasn't been used very often. You know, nowadays with birthday parties, typically what we do is we take out a section of the boards and then we set up tables downstairs for birthday parties and things because then kids can run in and out on the turf and not have to go upstairs and things like that. As far as like meetings, there's still plenty of room in there. We can set up tables and chairs and close the occupancy of if they want to go shoot or skate. So, yeah. So I talked to Park Board about it and they moved forward with the idea. So.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Jake.
Darren, anything? Thank you. Kian?
No reports tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Chuck?
So I haven't been here for the past couple council meetings. I figure I should come up and say something. Our crews are out there getting ready for winter. We're patching up everything we can, trimming trees, still a lot of dead branches and branches coming down from the storms. Last council meeting, Keenan gave the results from the garbage survey. The plan was to go forward with the purchase. Looking at the quote we received, that actually expired back in October of 2023. So I reached out to the company to get an updated quote. Once I have that, hopefully it's still under budget and we can move forward with the process.
Have we also looked at quoting out or getting information on just having
To outsource?
outsource it?
Yeah, we actually met with 2 companies. I checked with a company in town. They kind of gave me the no quote. They're busy as is and wasn't sure they could take on Crookston, rest of Crookston, I should say. So we reached out and we had a meeting with Waste Management and Countrywide. They are working on their proposals and possible action plan if they were to receive the offer.
Chuck, did we actually come up with a policy for like how this is gonna work?
I have a very rough draft that I was working on when I was informed that we would be moving this direction. That covers things like 24 hours, that's as long as your bins can be out on the or on the curb, not on the berm. It covers damages, and then the policy is really going to be affected and change if we do go to the outsourcing or not.
I'm just curious, I think some of the questions that we had last time was like, so is this available for everyone? Is it just people who are interested in opting in? Is it like, have we decided that part of it?
So Brandon and I were talking and we really feel for Crookston, the best way is to kind of ease into it. We're gonna have bags and bins. That was kind of the result of the survey. You know, it wasn't unanimous. It was 53% said, yes, we want bins. The rest were, you know, you can bring them in, I'm not gonna use them. Yeah, if it's mandatory, I'm moving from Crookston. Those were some of the comments we were getting. So we figured, hey, let's bring them in. Maybe people will see, hey, we're keeping animals out of our bags, you know, they're not ripping them open. We won't have a bunch of yellow bags hanging out everywhere. Everything will be concealed, contained, picked up, and then the bins just be put away. Yeah.
And have we decided, I think the other question was, were we gonna have one for trash and one for recyclables, or
Yes.
okay.
Yep, one for trash, one for recycling. And we are still looking at the prices. Brandon and I, his pricing was based off of the quote we received a while back, maybe last year or 2 years ago. I'm not sure when he got the quote. But the pricing would end up being roughly $12 and you would get 2 bins.
Is that per month or what?
Per month, yes. Yep. And then that would include, okay, if the bin was damaged, we would bring a new bin to you at no extra charge.
And is there initial cost for the bins then?
Nope, it's just you're signing up for the service.
Okay.
Yep. And then we would work out the details of, okay, are we gonna have, you know, over at the street shop, everyone just come
So
to the
once you
street
get,
shop?
once you get your initial sign up for the service and like in 2 days it gets filled, what's the next step?
After the initial sign up?
Yeah.
So during the initial sign up, you know, we're debating whether, you know, you come down to the street shop or wherever. We're thinking just call in or stop into City Hall. Tell us where you live, your name, and then we'll go drop off 2 bins to your location. We're also going to document the serial number. All the bins are serialized. So, you know, someone can't come and steal your bin, and we're gonna have our guys keep track of where the bins are located. It's gonna be a little of a learning curve. Because we'll also have to go back through and I forget the program that Lynn uses for billing, but we're going to have to reach out to that company. They're gonna create an extra line for us to put in that charge.
Okay. Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, and then hopefully people will like the bins and we can do everything.
The goal, I think one of the things that was identified in the survey, and I believe it was pointed out over on this side of the room, but about the only thing unanimous about the survey was that people hated the bags.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
And that being said, we're looking at the best way forward to provide the best services as to the residents as we can
Yep.
at the best cost.
Is it going to be, we're going to start with X amount of bins, or is it going to be whoever comes, or is it first come, first serve?
The initial quote was for the pneumatic arm to be installed on the truck, plus I think it's like 245, 250 bins. So that's what, we don't have to bring them all in at once, but you know, save on shipping and everything like that. We bring them in, we can find storage for them at the street shop. And
I just have a feeling that you're gonna go through 250 bins pretty quick.
for sure, and that would be awesome. That would be a very positive note, and then we can start ordering more in. We'd have to budget for that.
That's what I'm saying, so then it's just a first come gets it, and then when we're done,
I
we're done.
think, Chuck,
know,
that
we'll-
needs be a part of your discussion this budget cycle.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
You know, it's gonna be hard to have that be part of this budget cycle. We can definitely try to plan for it, but then again, you know, you look at the other end of the spectrum, and we only have 50 bins that go out the door. And then, I mean, we can still budget, but
I think you better
be
start a
money
wait
sitting there.
list.
Yeah, I
What's that?
wanna put out a list and
Well,
get the idea. I
yeah,
think you're
I
gonna-
was wondering if you try and see if you could do like an order form. So you can order in advance where then you have like a guaranteed number of trash cans if people are like guaranteed
Yeah,
that
that's
they're gonna do it,
a-
right?
That's a great idea.
And then you
Okay.
add 50 more or something to that.
Point of order, I'd just like to ask the council, this is a conversation that's starting to go down a rabbit hole that can go for a very long period of time. And this would be more appropriate at a budget workshop as we move forward through the process.
Yeah.
Garbage is a hot topic.
It is.
I love garbage.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Chuck. Holly, have anything?
So I spoke with Lance this afternoon, and you guys had asked about the audit update, and he does have draft financials in the works, so they should be ready by the end of this week. He was even thinking possibly tomorrow. And then we have a check-in call with the auditors tomorrow with Miller McDonald, so that's about all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lance, anything to add? Thank you. Before we go to council, we have Boy Scouts here, reasoning. Could you come up and tell us why?
For a badge.
Let them cancel. Their government badge.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us here. My name is Gary Marsla. I am the Scoutmaster with Troop 41 out of Crookston. We are working on our citizenship in the community merit badge. That is why we are here today to attend a council meeting, to learn what you guys do.
All right.
Exciting, isn't it?
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Start with Tim tonight.
Okay, so I have an update from the EDA. We are looking into the possibility of establishing a housing trust fund through the EDA. And in order to do so, we've had to set aside a pool of money, $150,000, which will be matched by the Minnesota Housing Trust Fund. And in order to qualify for the match, we have to have an ordinance in place that designates that the entity that we have decided will be the fiscal agent for the Housing Trust Fund. And what I would like to propose is that we have a very brief special meeting, perhaps this Thursday, if it's possible for my colleagues, where we would read the ordinance for the first time. And then in our subsequent September meeting, we would read the ordinance for the second time and then call a vote on the ordinance. By doing so, we will have one of the requirements to qualify for this $150,000 match, and we really don't want to see this money go off the table. It's a wonderful opportunity for us, and it will also enable the Economic Development Authority to really get some teeth in to continuing the momentum of affordable housing, workforce housing in the Crookston community.
Do you have a time on Thursday?
Is that doable, Ashley?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I am.
We wanted to ask
Because we
you,
don't have
Ashley.
3-day notice, right?
To get it into the paper, right, so it would be, I mean, I would have to, cause it would be, if we get it in tomorrow, it would be one day on the 10th, 11th, can you have it on the effective date?
Yes.
Okay, then, I mean, we would get it in tomorrow and it would be, if you can count the day that it's on as a day, again, I would have to further, you're putting me on the spot, so again, unfortunately, I would have to look into this. I know, Jeff, would you wanna put a little bit more information about what the process is with our Tanner and?
Yes, we can move forward with that. I believe Tanner has the draft ordinance ready to move. I spoke with him about a half an hour before the meeting. And I know it has been processed in the past for the council to separate the public hearing and the final vote. However, in this case, it is a, to use an industry term, it's rather boilerplate. It's very straightforward. And we are under a deadline that, while if we miss the deadline, we will have it in place for next year, but funding for next year from the state is not guaranteed. The announcement for funding, the sooner the better to get through on this. This has been put up within the last week, really, to staff and I didn't wanna rain on your parade, council member, so I left it for you to explain, but as we move through, Ashley can look through the most expeditious methods to get all of our postings in place so that we can move forward. And I can reach out to the mayor about a special meeting for the first reading and perhaps coincide that with a budget workshop if the council desires.
Yeah.
If
And I
the
will say,
timing
just
works.
to add to that, there's a lot of, a couple of us went to a housing summit, and there's a lot of surrounding cities that are utilizing this and are being competitive with their workforce housing. So I definitely think it's a good thing that we could try to push forward for.
If we could schedule the meeting a little bit later than 5:30, possibly 6 or 7, whatever people.
It's only gonna be like 15 minutes, right?
Take you longer to drive down here than actually
Yeah.
anything.
6, I mean, 6 would be good for me if we could.
Thursday?
If
I can do it on Thursday.
Yeah,
If
that's
it's on Friday, I will have a 2-year-old with me for
I can't do it Friday.
Yeah, I can't do
I'm not
Friday
here.
either.
Thursday would be, I have a
Well,
calendar.
let's shoot for Thursday and see if that's doable at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Very good.
So what, I mean, if it's not this week, then it's next year, is that what we're looking at?
Not necessarily,
Could we get one?
but the sooner rather than later.
I mean, could we get one in next Monday before our?
This,
Oh, for a budget meeting? Is that too late?
No, we have,
Currently,
the
we-
ordinance has to be passed by October 1st.
Well, that's fine, cause if we do budget meeting next week anyways.
Yeah.
Then we gotta
We'll be
have
here
a
to do that.
special council meeting before the budget on this one item.
So if we add that, or whatever, Ashley, whatever you do.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is we have to make sure with publication standards, the Crookston Times, you have to have it in by 9 AM the following Friday before publication. So that's the biggest thing is if that is your directive, we need to make sure it's in by this Friday to get it in, published. My next question would have to be, how long does it have to be published in the paper in order to pass it? Because if it is only published on the 20th and you're trying to pass it on the 23rd, again, I have to do some checking into that
It
as
would be
well.
the 16th that you would do your initial reading.
Yes, correct, yeah. But it wouldn't get into the paper until the 20th.
Oh, you can't do it now, this week?
For the public hearing. So like I said, we would have to make sure for the 20th. And I just need, again, a long story short, when you ask of these things last minute, it's hard to look at a calendar. So it would be something that I can definitely get back to you and make sure that we get it out for notice.
Does care or
Minnesota
what not count,
statutes
or does it
requires
have
that
to
it
be?
Minnesota statute 415 requires that it is posted to the website at least 10 days before the council meeting at which it is scheduled for a final vote.
So I just need to make sure that we are crossing our Ts and dotting our Is with this ordinance. So is it all right if I would be able to make sure that we correspond with you guys tomorrow and make sure that I have appropriate time to make sure that we can get this done properly?
Wonderful. Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. The other thing of note for me is I discovered a wonderful new park in Crookston that I wasn't aware of heretofore. So I attended the Get Kids Outdoors and Wednesday on the water event up at what we affectionately call Bob's Ponds, but it's also called Nature's View Park. And they have 2 beautiful ponds that are stocked with all kinds of fish. And we had about 10 young people out there fishing that night. There's a beautiful, beautiful, lush walking path that if you walk from the parking lot to the end and back is about a mile. And there's all kinds of wildlife out there and people enjoying the beautiful views. There are park benches that you can sit on to do some gazing if that's your thing. But please, if you're not aware of it, if you haven't been out there, it's catch and release. And my understanding is because it is a stocked pond and it's within the city limits, that the DNR does not enforce fishing licenses.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, so get the kids out there and bring your fishing poles and have a wonderful time. Now, that's it for me.
Thank you, Tim. Delane, anything?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you, Wendy.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you, Don.
I'd like to congratulate the fire department for getting that loan that you got, right? Stand up. There you go. Congratulations.
What loan?
Well, didn't he get some money for uniforms and so forth?
Oh, yeah.
Grant.
The respirators?
Yeah. That's a good deal for the city and his employees. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Clayton?
Well, I'd like to first welcome the Boy Scouts, and you guys can come down anytime you want.
First and last one.
Also, as you know, all know, school started last week, and just asking residents of Crookston to keep an eye out in your travels throughout town, in the mornings and afternoons, watching the little ones run around and going back and forth to school on bikes, walking, and buses. Make sure that you keep an eye out for the buses. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Henry?
Nothing for me.
Thank you. Christie?
I recently was appointed to the Board of Directors for the Coalition for the Greater Minnesota Cities, which I'm pretty excited about because we haven't had a lot of representation of Northwest Minnesota. And for those who don't really know what the Coalition is, it's basically a advocacy group on behalf of cities that are 5,000 people or more, but not the metro, though we do work with them on working on legislation and things that we're trying to pass. So really the needs of our smaller city, or not the metro, I should say, cities. And so I'm pretty excited about being able to represent our city as well as our region for that. So, yeah.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Morgan?
Other than the EDA meeting, that I was at with Tim, where we talked about a few different things for housing. Carrie's definitely working on that, and daycare seems to be her focus, so.
Great, thank you. Once again, hats off Crookston Baseball Association for their nice donation. Also, Troop 41, thank you for being here. Also, one other item, the Crookston Area Community Fund, the grant applications are up and running now for people that want to submit a grant for whatever organization that you're in. The deadline is October 9th, so to be considered, and then the Community Area Fund will get together and distribute grant dollars. So.
And could we just clarify, Dale, that this is like the ones that I had requested in the past, like the Humane Society and the DCDP and all that? And have they all been reached out to as well?
That, I just got this quick because Shirley Iverson couldn't make it tonight, so she just wanted me to get the word out there regarding this. So I'm thinking that she'll have more information, so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have. Just a reminder, there will be a budget meeting tonight, so nothing else become before council. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
September 9th, 2024. Take it away, Jeff.
Yes, Mayor and members of council, I've distributed some handouts. I also have I also have posted up on the screens for those in the area or in the room. The top sheet is the black and white copy that's got a big black line across the top of it. The second would be, has an orange box on the top labeled expenditures. The third is expenditures IT. And as we move forward, and if you flip through the first set, the order of the pages is arranged such that I have departmental revenues for those who do have revenues listed in the first column, expenditures in the second, and I've tried to identify opportunities from the requests in the third with some notes. The second page has the Parks Department subcategories listed. The third page has a breakdown from the levy, and all on the right-hand side, you'll see a breakdown of all of the non-departmental revenue, and that would include levy, LGA, other taxes, charges, general charges for services, and miscellaneous revenues. We have that. In the center, I've broken down our overall revenues, expenditures, including our library contractual obligation. The difference, I've subtracted capital, the requested capital amounts, which leaves us with an operating need. In this case, that is a negative operating need. We're actually under the projection. The revenues in the top are, on that top line, are minus the contribution going to parks, which is shown in the parks section. If you look at the center of the page, I've got a small piece that identifies our net tax capacity from 24 to 25 and identifies the $164,000 shortfall at our current tax rate in dollars and percent. It's about a 3.3% reduction in our tax capacity dollars. So if we maintained the same tax rate, we would lose approximately 3.3% in revenue.
Which is 164,000.
Yes, ma'am. The overall shortfall in this draft is $2,076, but please keep in mind that this is a very rough draft. Water and sewer are not a part of this. And again, capital contributions are also not part. The reason that I subtracted that out is capital would normally come from reserves. However, as drafted currently, there are no contributions to those reserves set up yet. So I'm still working with staff moving forward with individual department ideas or the capital on the individual line items. I'm trying to categorize them in a logical way so that we can move through them efficiently. Currently, they're just line items lumped together within the department, so it makes it kind of difficult to follow through. We do have, if we come back to I apologize. If you come back to the back two pages, those identify the capital requests by the departments. They're stapled, but if you unplug the staples and kind of tear it apart, you can set it next to the top sheet, and it'll identify out there, and the second one would line up with the second sheet. I couldn't get them all in without making it too small to read. Some of the most noteworthy increases that we have are the police department has a 22% increase, and that is pending union negotiations. Chief Seltzer and I went over, and we felt it appropriate to budget based on initial ask and worst case scenario move for this particular draft as we move forward. And that line item would solidify a little bit more. I don't wanna get too deep down the rabbit hole in that particular line item, just that is subject to our negotiations with the union reps. The Community Development Department has requested an additional staff person. That accounts for roughly 75 to 100,000 when you account for benefits for that position. So that would be an additional ask that's listed in that department.
Is that what opportunity is?
It's not in capital.
What I've listed that as opportunity is not necessarily opportunity, but it's something that is identified as being significantly different from the previous year. It's an additional ask. Perhaps I could name that something a little better. But that's the significant change. If you'll direct to the screen, it may take it a moment to, it looks like it's not connecting. Here we go. Okay, we have a slight delay, but the screen, I also, and this is modeled after, I should go to the administration because you have that template, that sheet, so that you won't need to go to them. This is the administration. What I have here, this is the line items that we have. Some of the current budget to proposed budget numbers are very off because in this line, these lines, I've not allocated directly to the departments in the past. The time sensitivity that we have for our initial draft budget. So they're not allocated through. As an example, my salary would normally be allocated part to water, part to sewer, part to admin, part to finance, part to all of the different areas. And instead, I have included them directly. The calculations that I've used to come up with the numbers, I have on another sheet that in a moment should click up to the piece, but I took each individual, took the salary, the 2025 salaries listed and came up with a total. And then that total conveys over to the other tab within the sheets. So these are assuming a 2% increase, which is in line with the union contracts that we have. Should the council determine additional COLAs, we can make those adjustments easily. In the finance department, we have one employee who is half water and half finance. That I have separated that out because that's a simple one-off calculation. And then I have our building department, which is a one individual department moving forward. For administration, the FICA contributions, Medicare, para-coordinated, para-DCP are all formulaic. Those are all formula driven based on the salaries listed on the top. The health insurance, as per the previous directive given by council, keeps the per person rate static. We've attempted to look the proposed budget in line. We've tried to keep things in line both with trends and with year to date. Our 23 actuals, we have limited confidence as they're not completely up to date until the audit, the 23 actuals will be better with the audit. The current budget year to dates, we're behind, as the council knows, we are behind in some of the journal entries. So some of these items are best guess. My philosophy is generally to underestimate revenues and overestimate expenses slightly. And by slightly, I mean less than 1%, so that we can have some safety factor within our budget, because it is an art and not a science.
Yeah, question, is year-to-date, current to September, or is year-to-date to July 1, or what's the year-to-date?
I will have to defer to Lance and Holly on that.
It depends a little bit, there are certain categories that are farther behind the others, so, most of the actual expenses that are coded and salaries should be accurate.
Okay, thank you.
If you have the reconciliation.
Thanks.
And just for clarification, we don't have a year-to-date for the admin budget.
For which part of the admin budget, ma'am?
The expenditures.
Year-to-date expenditures for admin currently is $265,000, based on a current budget of $755,000. And that's where we were talking that some of those numbers are not completely current. As an example, professional fees is not, I don't believe is current. I believe the original amount budgeted was anticipating the cost for CLA as one of the items. And I don't believe all of that is currently coded properly, or currently coded. We're still working on bringing 24 up to date.
There's an issue with the spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
The G was too small, and so it didn't show on the printed. I just figured out I needed to expand.
just
There's
widened
no,
it myself.
yeah, what we got printed doesn't have year-to-date on it, that's why I was asking that question.
No, on the second page, it is there, but the year-to-date column was shrunk in.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, I had to collapse that in to keep it on a page.
So is there anything in that line?
The line for year-to-date that's collapsed in is 265,313. The requested admin budget does come down. There are some items such as workers' comp rates. Until I get we won't get our final experience factors until November. Until then, I've penciled in under workers' comp the full rate. Once we get our experience factor, I would anticipate those going down. Last year's workers' comp was about a 28% discount from manual rate. So I would anticipate those should go down significantly. But again, until I have more solid numbers and I know where things are, I would rather budget over and adjust downward as we get information. Part of the reason I selected the departments I did is these are fairly straightforward. The proposed budget for salaries, again, includes 2% for the staff members reporting to my office. My salary, I remain static, as that is up to the council direction, and I don't want to presume any amounts. My contract does not include what we call in the industry a Me Too clause. So any adjustments to my salary are at council discretion, completely at council discretion, and so I left it as per. Outside of that, and you'll note on the cover sheet, there's no opportunity listed, because I don't feel in this particular department, and as we move through, with the exception of workers' comp, there's not really much room to make any significant adjustments to help offset a budget deficit. The salaries are what they are. The FICA, para, Medicare is all formulaic based on salary. The health insurance is as our rates and directed by council. Office supplies at $17.50. The reason that increased at 75% higher is because I combined the line item miscellaneous supplies 0217. I don't believe in budgeting miscellaneous, because if I can budget it, I can name it. And if I can name it, it's not miscellaneous.
So did you take miscellaneous supplies out then?
I took 750 and I added that to the office supplies to come up with the 1750 in the office supplies line 0200. So I maintained the same dollar amount, but I combined those two line items. As I started looking with Kathy and looked at some of the contributors to those, they really kind of fell into an office supply type of a category. Professional fees, this is budgeted out again for CLA. I anticipate that particular line item is down 68%. Lance and I have been discussing today a process to wean our city off of the need to utilize their services, with the exception of direct audit prep. And the anticipated time frame for Holly to be free to spread her wings is probably, Lance and I have identified probably 4 to 6 months as we finish this budget cycle. And then Lance spends a couple more months helping with some of the higher end functions. And on that number may be able to be reduced, but we're not able to make that determination as of yet. Lance and I discussed today the potential, as the audit finishes up, reducing his on-site time, and having more remote work and remote access. That being said, because Lance, his travel time by our contract with CLA includes a rental car and windshield time, so every time he comes up, we're paying 10 hours of travel time. At the contracted rate, that becomes significant. If he can work the same magic with numbers remotely and with Holly and I, then I am all for saving us that travel expense if we can.
So Jeff, can I just double check the professional expense or fees? My understanding weren't just CLA, but like for like League of Minnesota Cities and things like that. Is that a different line item, or is this the same line item?
We have, League of Minnesota Cities would be under, League of Minnesota Cities would be under mayor and council under dues.
Okay, so professional fees are just CLA at this point?
To my knowledge, that is, but Lance,
This is the
I
only
see
line
Lance
item you have.
squirming a little. I'm sure he has the accounting up right now.
I'm trying to track that down.
Yeah, because I mean, this isn't the first year, this is the first year we've used them, and that line item's been there for a long time, so I'm just curious what other services fell under that.
Is that where Ellers would fall as well?
I would expect that to fall under the finance
Under
department,
finance.
sir.
Okay. So we'll see a professional
I'll make a
professional
note.
fees, okay.
And then what is like our city lawyer then fall under?
The legal has its own line item now.
Okay,
Legal.
That would be account 41610. It's about 1/3 of the way down on the cover sheet, on the black and white sheet.
okay.
Okay.
And do we know what like our actuals were for the years prior to that for legal? Are we gonna see that somewhere?
Our prior legal is going to be reduced. My predecessor, being the former city attorney, did take on a lot of those tasks
Will we see, where will we see this? And what grouping will we see it legal under?
Under legal, ma'am.
So-
It has,
I'm just wondering, like, are we gonna see the actuals and then like what it was for 23? So we have an idea, like trending as to what legal has been in the past? And what,
one moment and I can pull that up. It'll be on the screens in just a moment, ma'am. As the screen catches up, in 22, the actual was 131,000. 23, the actual was 125,900. Year-to-date is 71,000, and I based the 130 proposed budget on an average of a rough average of the previous 2 years.
okay,
Very good.
And that number is on the screens now. I've highlighted it for viewing.
and what tab is that? It's really hard to see.
It's
budget to actual?
Admin?
Budget to actual 24-8724.
Okay,
That, what this tab is the printout from our accounting software of all of our active accounts.
okay,
I've done some work to separate out the different subcategories. Not generally speaking, it is, the 5-digit code in the middle that begins with a 4 is an expense. If it begins with a 3, it's a revenue. Are there any other questions on the administration?
So in lieu of, you know, the consideration that you've built in some cushion, we're still showing the total expenditures down 10%.
Yes, sir.
From the previous
From the previous budget.
budget, okay.
And I would even hesitate to say any cushion, because again, it's less than 1%, it would generally be rounding errors.
Okay.
In general, I would round up. If something comes up to be $5,217, for budgeting purpose, I'm gonna call it 5250. I'm not gonna take it all the way to 53, but. At this point, I would like, if there are no further questions there, I would like to turn over to go over to IT.
I just have one more question.
Yes,
For the
ma'am.
organized rec under the sub-department here, there's no revenue for organized rec?
Should be. Did not have the,
What number is that, Christie?
Under the sub-department parks, it's 45100.
it's not the fund. That would be because Parks and Rec has a separate revenue subset of 30,000, 30,000. They're listed directly above that particular department. That includes, trips, adult fees, adult recreation fees, campground fees. It's a 30,000 charges for service. We have subtotal for miscellaneous services, which is the 6,062.13 to 62.43 for tournaments, donations, the Kids Park, rent for the arena, revenues. So those are broken out into different accounts. Again, this is simply a breakout from our finance software. So the organized rec of 41 or 45,100 does not have an associated revenue because the revenues for the Parks and Rec fund are separated out into 30,000.
Okay, and so that's the 2 point,
It's 220, it's a 225 fund, it's not the general fund, ma'am.
okay. I guess I was just thrown off because it says non-department revenue, so, okay. Yeah, you can go ahead and go to IT then.
IT has one of the larger increases. It is a single page for the department. Part of the reason that I wanted to go over this at this particular meeting is because, as you all know, today is Zach's last day being on site. He is going to be working in a limited capacity remotely to assist. And while the council members may note that there was an intended agenda item for this evening, Nate has tendered his resignation moving forward, so I have opened up position for search on that, and I felt it appropriate that we get through this department while we had the full complement of our staffing available to us with the history moving forward. The IT department has a 33% increase in the request. However, the lion's share of this is what we like to call in government unfunded mandates. Many of the items that we have are a lot of the subscriptions that this body has approved that help us maintain compliance with various state requirements. As an example, what we did 2 weeks ago in approving the software that helps us it points out attempts to enter our IT system from nefarious actors or malicious actors, instead of having to manually go over those thousands of attempts and hits. It flags suspicious activity for staff to look at. So I wanted to go over this so that if there were any questions, that we had the technical experts here to explain. The proposed budget is listed at 175. Again, I did a rounding on that. Temporary salaries I have, and some of the proposed budget is combined with some temporary salaries for Zach to finish out some of the projects that we have. You'll note that I do not have severance pay budgeted in any line item for any department. My rationale for that is an accrued benefit, and we have that accounted for within other areas of our software. And basically that would mean that we're planning on somebody leaving and being paid out, and we can make a budget adjustment at the end of the year to accommodate any amounts that need to go through that. Again, the FICA, Medicare, para, those are all calculated items, the same with the health insurance. As you'll note, that is carried over for the same number from the current budget, in line with requests, with the direction from council at the last budget workshop. Office supplies. Office supplies in IT, let me pull up my proper screen so that I can answer any questions that may come. Office supplies have basically been all over the board. And In '23, office supplies were $12,000. In '22, they were $11,000. Our current budget was $1,000 and our year-to-date is $1,000.
So how does that work?
Yeah.
How do we go from 11 then to 12 and now we're budgeting 3?
I can't speak to amount what was coded previously, but Zach has some information. We agreed on that 3,000 was an adequate and sufficient number to move forward.
So part of it was the network upgrade with the $400,000. The next thing we have to look at is with last year's budget, Chad rewrote a lot of these line items and condensed them into single lines rather than having them spread out. So what Nate and I have tried to do with this year's budget is to put it back into those lines that it should be in, because it makes it easier for us to track what we're actually using. In our terms for IT, office supplies is more than just pens, pencils. It's your TV mounts, your wiring, new monitors, things like that is what we put under office supplies, so.
And so then where did you put those other expenses then?
So a lot of that stuff for this year and the year before was put under other improvements.
Yeah, which is practically miscellaneous, right?
Correct.
Practically.
Just wanna make sure. Okay. That makes sense then.
Beans.
I just thought that was really ambitious to go from almost $13,000 to 3, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that.
Well, we're paperless now.
And a lot of it is, you know, with that network upgrade, there was a lot of extra purchases
Sure.
with cabling and smaller things like that that had to be made,
Okay,
so.
alright, sounds good.
Thanks, Zach.
Yep.
Thanks, Nate.
Don't go far, I'm sure
Yeah, I
more
was gonna say
questions
the,
are coming.
I have a question about contractual, but let's get down there.
Gasoline, oil, miscellaneous supplies, we don't use those really in our tech department. Tech staff does have a city vehicle if they need to go to the police station to work on anything. Disposal expensive equipment, we did put a minimal amount there because there are some pieces of equipment that we do have to pay to dispose of, but they're generally fairly minimal. Small tools and equipment, that's one of the items that Zach had identified that we wanna be more appropriate with how we're identifying our expenses. And I am going to be very upfront, 2,500 was the current budget. We have not used any year-to-date according to the software, but I don't know where the status of any invoices that are in that. So we took what I call a swag and put the same amount in.
Right.
Can you
So
give us an example of what those would be?
small tools and equipment is gonna be stuff that I use or that I would purchase to repair cables
Sure.
or to conduct work, so screwdriver sets. Nothing that I've needed this year that I don't already have.
Great.
And Zach, I'm gonna let you explain the next contractual line
Yes.
at 63.5. That
we're-
went from 30 to 177 to the current budget of 3,000 and our proposed 63.5.
Yes, so if you guys can remember, when the network upgrade was first approved, it was done in conjunction with Exigent, so they handled a majority of the actual work into designing, shipping, getting us everything we need. They currently still support us with any issues that we're running into with the network that can't be figured out at this level, and they still support us with backup as a service. So everything that we store as a city gets backed up off-site and retained off-site. If there was an event where the whole police department burned to the ground, we would be able to continue our work by connecting to what they have off-site. Those initial contracts, the maintenance agreement was a 3-year. The backup as a service was a 2-year, so we're becoming due on that 2-year one. So these were initially paid with the ARPA funds that were in reserve. So now that we're getting out of this contract, we need to fund it a different way if we're gonna maintain backup as a service.
And the backup is gonna be approximately 63,000. There's another contractual.
Right now, the backup as a service is set to be 43,000 of this number. And that is a ballpark based on an annual contract. Exigent was wanting to renegotiate a longer term contract for lower pricing, but this is a worst case scenario for that piece of that.
Sure, so, but that is the only thing that's under contractual?
Nope, there's a few more. So we have our Halsted agreement. So we did a prepay for 5 years, and that included everyone but the airport. The airport later came in at a different time, so theirs is paid on a monthly, whereas the rest of the cities is paid ahead 5 years, or should be 3.5, 4 years now.
Okay,
We've got, yep, the plotter upstairs. So we have a plotter scanner that we've leased from Marco. That's come into the city so that Greg can start digitizing all of his old
sure.
maps. And then
What does that cost?
that one, where's our annual? 2880 for the lease and 1380 for supplies and maintenance.
28,000 or?
2800, sorry. So combined, it's gonna be just north of 4.
Okay. Okay. So you have the plotter scanner, we have the next gen, is that what you called it? Next gen, the cloud saving, whatever. And then the contract with Halsted, how much is that?
The Halsted one is gonna be 200 a month, is that what we're at?
It's 3,000 annually for the Halsted for the airport. The city is contracted through 5 years, and I think we're in year 2 of that currently.
We've already paid that then?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
For the rest of the city with Halsted was prepaid with those funds.
With the ARPA funds, okay.
Yep. Some of the smaller items of note, so we've got, for our VPN, we have a 3-year license on that. The same with, let's see.
These are, I would just bring up this one at the bottom.
Marco, and that's gonna be our service printers.
Right.
So then we have 13K for Marco, and that is going to cover any of our desktop printers, so we have roughly 17 at the different various sites. And that covers maintenance and toner. With roughly half of those printers being leased.
Is that the most cost effective?
Probably not.
So,
It seems like a lot.
not quite. Is this
money
including
for
the
17
MFP?
printers.
Is mostly support through the Marco. Contractual support.
This
Like, do we
isn't
do we
printers?
need support that often for printers?
Taxes on, okay, what about MFPs? Well, we don't have MFPs on ours, okay. So this is subscriptions and dues, so I'm staying corrected on that. This is gonna be contractual support. Anything like man hours, working with getting M files developed, getting it spread out to the other departments. That is where this is gonna come into play.
Does that still seem significant, like a lot of money for what they're doing?
I'd have to dig in, I'd have to go back and look where we got this number exactly.
I believe, if I remember correctly, on a lot of these subscription numbers, some of them seem like they're higher, but when we break down, if something happens and you call for their hourly rate, then it ends up being a significant, so it's kind of a roll the dice kind of a situation. If you can get through the year without having to call them, great, we've saved money. But if we have to call them more than once, then the hourly rate quickly outpaces the cost of the subscription.
Sure, okay.
There might be some stuff to work on the contractual still for these numbers.
We'll look more into that one.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Is there a way to like get a breakdown of some of those things too, just so we can
I
kind of
have.
see what those are made up of?
I have a breakdown for subscriptions and dues. I don't have one currently printed for contractual. But those are gonna be subscriptions and dues. I might need that back if you guys have a question on one of them.
You email it to us?
We can, yes.
That'd be great.
Probably better.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah.
As we move forward, we've got communications, which in this particular line item is essentially cell phones. The staff cell phone cost. We've got a minimal travel and training of $500. This is a penciled amount, recognizing that we are currently in a very tight budget. there was nothing budgeted or actual in '22. It was $149 in '23 and $1,700 budgeted in the current budget. I would like to see a higher dollar amount in that. I am a believer in training, and IT is something we want to stay up on the edge on. We don't wanna fall behind with it. However, given the 33%, that would be an area for council direction.
Well, can't you just do the same thing you did up above with small tools and what you called swag? I don't know what that means, but.
Silly wild guess.
Okay.
But I try to make them educated, silly wild guesses.
Okay, but do you think that maybe a silly wild guess up to 1,500 there would be more in line with reality?
I think it may be, yes, sir.
I believe in training, and given that we are, constantly in transition, that we really need to train people up. Yep.
I would even say, even as like an incentive for somebody to know that they have professional development up to $1,500 a year.
Yep.
Is also, if not something that we can compensate in salary, something we can compensate in education.
Yep.
Can't, training expense and employee training be lumped into one or not?
Well, the employee training line has no budget, sir. That line has been lumped already.
Right, it's not, so why is it there?
That is part of the cleanup that Lance, Holly, and I are working on. As we go through, again, this is a listing from our finance software of every active account that we have. And in many cases,
They told
there are
us
many.
last year they can't delete account numbers.
Right, if it has history, a lot of times you can't delete it.
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
has-
But is it something that we should be looking at every time we do a budget
We
talk?
should not, but as we move forward, I'm working with Lance to clean these
Okay.
up. And they'll be coming off, but in the meantime,
Sure,
they're there
there.
because they're in the system as
Yep.
active
Yep.
accounts.
great, wonderful, okay.
Can't you just hit delete? Backspace?
Right, it was only that easy.
Hide.
Again, moving forward, we've got liability insurance. These numbers have been all over. In '22, the actual was $969. In '23, it was $142, which I know is low. That does not pass a smell test. And the current budget was $1,821. I kinda took an average of all of them and said $950. Holly did forward to me late this afternoon, a copy of the league is changing our insurance policy term. They have always been November 1st to October 31st, and now they're changing it to January 1 to December 31. So we're gonna have a little hiccup in the insurance, but over in the future, it'll be a better hiccup because it aligns with our fiscal year. So we will have some additional, as we start looking through that, we'll be able to allocate the liability insurance more appropriately among our departments. Workers' comp is a mathematical formula based on the salary. It is 0.76%. IT is considered office, so they're fairly low risk for workers' comp.
So we're not budgeting anything for that this year?
Yes, I have 1,330 for workers' comp.
Sorry, I was looking at the line below, okay.
Uh,
And then question on the liability insurance, why is that all over the place? You would think insurance would be pretty
I can't speak to how things were allocated in the past. I do know that we have identified, Holly, Lance and I have identified that in the past, both workers' comp and our liability insurance, for some reason that we do not know, and I've spoken with Kathy on this as well, and her answer was, when she came in, that's the way it was always done prior as well.
Sure.
But what happened is the bill would come in, and normally our bills come in at the end of 1 year for the following year. We pay the year in advance. Because we have the money, we're not gonna change our carrier. There's no reason to go monthly payments, it just costs us more. So we pay the year in advance, and from an accounting standpoint, they used a 720 fund, which is not the general fund, not 101. They used the 720 fund and then monthly would accrue to the departments. From a financials reality standpoint, the reporting makes it look pretty for the council when we do quarterly or monthly reports, because then the percentages in that last column equals the percentage of the year that goes by. But the reality is that all of that has already been spent.
Okay.
So that, the reason 23 is only 142 is because when Kathy left the city, there was no one who knew to accrue anything moving forward until after the closeout of the year was closed out. And once the year is closed out, that removes your ability to go into the system and make further adjustments. Now, there will be some manual adjustments that Lance has already done with the auditors, and everything is square for the audit on that. The expenses are accrued properly, but from our month-to-month accounting standpoint, that's why a couple of these accounts are really off, is because some accruals did not occur after we lost an employee that retired.
Okay. What about utilities?
Pardon?
What about utilities?
Utilities, that's an accrual assigned to, not an accrual, I apologize. That was an allocation, as best as I can determine. I followed the path from the last budget where it was not budgeted, because there really is no way to identify how much in utilities IT uses versus finance versus admin versus HR. And I'm making an assumption that in the past that went straight to City Hall.
Okay, so is there just gonna be one line item for utilities for the whole city?
So not for the city, but as an example, City Hall would have we know how much City Hall uses for utilities.
Okay, so we're taking this one out then? Is this another one that's getting taken out?
I think historically, looking at what's been billed under utilities, it's been the Midco bills with in between cable, TV, internet for the various sites. Most of those are going away as we now have Halsted. The remaining will be things like elevator phones, which we want to have static. And then cable TV services for PD and fire department, I believe, are the two that have them. So
do we need a utility line then?
no, moving forward, I don't think so.
Yeah, it looks like it was.
So you'll be putting those under those individual departments then?
Correct. Well, as it sits now, the Midco bills that remain already do get pushed out under individual departments. The Midco bills that were going under IT covered most of just City Hall.
Okay. So there's another fund for that then? Okay, great.
Question on the liability insurance. So is this the kind of liability that is P&A?
This liability is basically if somebody trips and falls.
Okay. So not professional administrative or directors and officers.
No, I have not looked over our policy. I just got the renewal notice from Holly this afternoon. I haven't had a chance to look over the line items, about 75 pages, to see exactly where. There are some items that are included, just general citywide. As an example, in errors and omissions, it's a line item that would be included. Sometimes it's a separate charge, sometimes it's included in the normal premium. I have not had the opportunity to look at our invoice to identify that yet.
Thank you.
Office equipment repairs, last year was budgeted at 2,500. I felt it appropriate on conversations with Zach to keep it at that level. If I remember, Zach, our conversation was basically, if something has to break, that's about the minimum it's gonna cost us to fix it realistically.
Yeah, if it's stuff that's out of warranty or out of coverage.
And that public access channel right above it, we're just not paying for that anymore? Is that just
We've
not? something-
never, as long as I've been here, we haven't had to pay anything on that.
Okay.
We don't make money nor spend money other than our own equipment on providing Channel 3,
Okay,
so.
great.
Most cable companies do provide local access to local governments as a service, and they cover the expenses of that. In my previous city, that was also the case.
Yeah, I was just wondering why there was a line item then. Okay, great.
Now for the fun one, Zach and Nate, I'm gonna let y'all eat this one, the subscriptions and dues.
Yeah, so subscriptions and dues, a lot of this increase is coming from previous subscriptions that were paid under different departments' budgets. It was Chad's notion that IT should pay for anything IT. So if it's an IT-related subscription, it gets budgeted under IT. So what got passed around, whether you guys were able to read it or not, it's a little small, is a list of all of our subscriptions and dues. It is a very big list, but it covers the whole city, right? So just even starting from the top of this list, you've got stuff like Adobe, which is gonna be used by everyone, Atera, which is again used by everyone for everyone's computer. Axon stuff is going to be PD. We've got email security stuff, mostly email archiving. There are certain communications that our retention schedule has us listed as having indefinitely. So that's kind of what that archiver helps us with. A little bit further, you've got Civic Plus Engage and Civic Plus AudioEye. That's gonna be the website. AudioEye is the new ADA compliance aspect of it. You've got things like Esri. Esri is what's used for all our GIS mapping. It's used by both Public Works and Water Department. Huntress is one that is going to provide that security to both the computers and our cloud accounts. It also provides that user training that you might see in your email once a month.
Can I go back real quick? The ADA compliant piece, is that fairly new?
For us,
Yeah,
so we've had some level of ADA compliance that came with the website.
okay.
What AudioEye is doing is it's scanning our website every day. Anything we add, it's automatically gonna tag it with the alternative text that it needs.
Sure.
And it has tools that work with different disability tools that people might have on their computer.
So I only ask because I think it's federally mandated
Yes.
that all municipal websites now need to be ADA compliant. So does this put us into compliance?
Yes.
And so we don't have to worry about like doing an audit of our websites, we're just automatically compliant?
Correct.
And it
For the
helps set us up
Crookston
for-
MNUS.
And helps us up for the future, any content getting posted is also.
Okay, great, wonderful.
Things like the Google licensing, something I've been slowly dwindling down, but we're limited. As all of the council members have Chromebooks, they have to have a Google license in order to have an account on those Chromebooks. The few extras that we have is stuff like Google Calendar stuff, Google Docs stuff that is getting shared externally. One of the issues that we run into when I take away a Google license from any user is if they have something shared with them that's from the Google platform, if they don't have a license, they can't view it. So it kind of impacts. Again, it's one of those ones that I'm slowly trying to dwindle down, get people moving all of their stuff that they might need onto a different platform.
Well,
even
aren't we
Microsoft.
utilizing Microsoft?
We are.
So outside of like us needing to have it to use our Chromebooks.
Yep, so for the longest time, Parks and Rec had all of their schedules on a Google Calendar, and that's what was displayed on the TVs at the Parks and Rec. The fire department has a hydrant map. When people take management of those hydrants, when they clear snow, they get plotted onto that map. Just a few various things like that.
So this is gonna be on Microsoft and what other ones?
I'm sorry?
You're gonna use Microsoft and what other ones?
Microsoft should be primarily what anyone's using, so.
Could we put those on SharePoint or whatever it is?
Yeah.
So we don't have to utilize that anymore?
SharePoint is available to anyone with a Microsoft license, so,
Okay.
including you guys, so.
Well, I was just wondering like how long it's gonna take us to migrate.
It's a process. Every
Yep.
time I shut it off, I end up turning one back on.
Yeah, I get it, I get it.
Marco's M Files, that if you guys recall that one is our document imaging platform. So any of the council codes, any resolutions, anything that Ashley would work with gets uploaded and is publicly facing. So that is something that's recently come in, it's replaced paper vision. And that is something that's still in the works. The ability for Ashley to upload her documents to it is fully functioning. So we're trying now to get it spread out to a few of the other departments that might have a need to store documents that are indexed. That being said, we've run out of our hours on that contract, so we're trying to see what we can do with what we've got left. There isn't a lot for us to do it's usable in its current form. To spread it out to other departments, we will need more work on that, but that's something that we can work with.
So just for clarification on that, because I know that was a really big thing, is that like, because we didn't have something where like your average person could go in and just type in something to find out if a resolution's happened or something's been put into code. So is all of that stuff now in?
There's a few more steps that I need to work on to get it publicly available, but all of our documents are within that.
Okay. I know that was quite the process, so,
Yeah.
great.
And when it is publicly available, it'll be as simple as somebody going onto our website and clicking a link, so.
And then they can look for whatever.
Yes.
Great.
The Marco Managed Print Service Stacks Agreement, that is the desktop printers. That annually is $7,800. So it's about $30 per black and white printer and $50 per color printer. And again, that covers maintenance, toner. Some of them are leased.
Or annual, or monthly?
Annual.
Okay.
Let me look here. Screen Connect Remote Desktop, that is what IT uses, finance uses, and the PD use to be able to remote into other systems. So I find it a very necessary one. It makes life a lot easier if I don't have to drive to Crookston in the middle of the night just to put in my password. It also makes.
Weekend when, or on a holiday, when the administrator realizes that he left a file open and his computer reset over the weekend, and I needed Zach to come in and help me find my documents.
We currently pay for 3 concurrent licenses on Marco. The justification in that is there's 2 IT guys that are constantly having to remote into other computers. We also loan it out to CLA and our own finance group. That way they can work on finance stuff when they're not here in the office.
Okay.
Below that, Microsoft Windows Defender, that is what we use for the defense of your cloud accounts on top of Huntress. It's what we had to use in order to get a little better email security when it comes to reporting spam ones, phishing ones, different things like that. Then below that is the Microsoft Office licenses. Our G3, which is the most expensive, is what enables users to use Office products on their desktop. F3 is what enables users to use the cloud Office products. So the cloud one is cheaper, but it's because you can't, it has to be done on a mobile device rather than a full install on a computer.
Okay.
It also allows for G3 licenses to have higher email storage capacity. Below that, we've got Otter AI, which is a transcription software, so meetings like this can be uploaded to it and it will transcribe it onto paper for us. It makes it a little bit easier for the administration to make their notes. Sangoma is the next biggest one on here. That's going to be our phones. So the phones that we have are leased through Sangoma. It is the server for them is a cloud server, so we don't have anything on site. We're not paying electricity for that. But it handles voicemails, it handles routing, it handles every way that our phone system works. Below that, Splunk, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. Below that, Tyler Tech Encode. This is going to be one of the biggest ticket items for next year. We have it sitting at $60,500. Tyler Tech is our finance software. It is a very necessary thing, and because it's a municipal software, it's very expensive. That being said, we're in the process of moving to Encode 9 Cloud, which will make it to where we don't have to support it locally. With that process, the next step on us is to step into Encode 10, which is a newer version of the software. A lot easier. It's gonna have your stuff like time management and hours for people.
And that'll all be included in this next year?
So time reporting through an automated system is not gonna happen in 2025?
It will happen by the end of the year, is the goal.
2025?
Yes. So the goal right now is to have us moved on to Encode 9 SaaS by the end of October. So they're beginning work this month on it. We get put on a list to be in line to get that upgrade to 10, and they work on that.
So when do you think 10 will happen?
So from what they've told me in emails, we're looking at the end of 25.
So we're probably not looking to get our time entering in until 26 then probably.
Correct. With that move, it drops by about 10K as well. So instead of 60, we'll be paying 50. I don't know the math on it. That's just what I was quoted. Beyond that, you've got Verizon MDM. That is a BCA requirement to have mobile device management on any of our mobile devices. And then Zoom, our Zoom licenses, which are used for a variety of things, including council meetings, interviews, et cetera.
And so the big difference between 23 and 24, because it's like almost like what, $100,000 difference, is what is that primarily gonna be?
So you've got a 30K difference, which comes from moving Zerker under IT instead of the PD. That is their record management software.
Okay.
And then you've got the M-Files edition. So M-Files at its start was helped funded by other departments, so we're just bringing it in under IT now.
M-Files?
M-Files.
M-Files?
Yep.
And what is that?
That is the document imaging solution.
Oh, okay.
Beyond that, we've got 17K that comes from just new IT management security areas such as Atera and Huntress. Again, Atera is what handles the actual management of your computer, ensuring that it's up to date, it's secure with its new updates, whereas Huntress is the one that actually defends your computer. About 14, almost 15,000 of it came from new things to put us within BCA compliance.
13 of which was from Splunk.
Yep.
Okay. Right, I just wanted to know what the difference was the two. Thank you.
So, question, last year when Chad was doing the budget, he said we agreed we didn't have it in the budget for last year for the time reporting system. But he said it'll be in there for the next year. So what was he thinking for this year's budget to get in there for?
So Chad was looking at other tools outside of Encode. Encode's time management software is one that I happened to discover with the help of Holly. And that, when I began the talks with Tyler Tech to get us upgraded onto Encode 9 cloud version, we talked about time management software, and that's something that they do offer. So I have an exact breakdown of how much extra it is, but it's only a couple thousand extra rather than the 20,000 or so that it would cost to get an external tool to do something like that.
And I wonder, Holly, would you say it'd be correct in that us putting it under like something we're already utilizing instead of having to like have another software talk to that software makes better sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And an additional benefit to that is it's native to the Tyler Tech, so we know the compatibility, we know there won't be any issues with that.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Okay, great.
So what stops us from having it in 2026?
The wait to get onto Encode 10.
So is it really about the migration to 9 to 10?
Yes.
And the migration is what takes a while, and so if you have multiple companies that are trying to migrate, they can only do so many migrations at a time.
So, and also if we continue to have the turnover that we've been having, will that also put us behind?
On the upgrade?
Yeah.
No. My plan, as he stated, is to help work remote. But more so, my plan is to finish out the projects that I've got started. such as this move to Encode 9 SaaS, helping train in whoever we end up bringing in as an IT director, and getting them up to speed on these various projects that might not have happened yet. So my goal is to keep it flowing. We've done enough work here that I can't let us fall back to what we
Yeah,
had.
because it's been a long time coming for us to have 20th century time reporting.
I agree.
You know, and it's just ridiculous, and I just wish we didn't have to put it off for that long.
For reference, when I started here, we were still running Windows 2008 servers.
Yeah, I get it.
So-
I mean, it's like-
I'm trying to get us modern.
Yeah, well, but I would also say that I don't think it's that crazy to utilize, this makes the best sense. You're not having to go out for an RFP to look at 5 million different softwares and then hope to God, and having worked in IT, like just to find something that's compatible. As a salesperson, I could tell you something's compatible, but it could take a lot more work than, you know, and you're not gonna know that until you actually get the system. So have something that's already within the system makes so much more sense than trying to go out there and find something just to make it faster.
Very good.
Any other questions on subscriptions? The last part that Jeff has on here is workstation and furnishing. That,
We also, sorry, Nate, or sorry, Zach, we've also got a 7250 for GTAC for police squad car
yes.
laptops.
so part of Chad's replacement plan for the computers that are within the squad cars is about one a year. So that is where that cost comes from. They are an expensive computer because they're a ruggedized case and a tablet, and they're made for the police, so.
Why is there such a difference from the actuals of 23 to now?
72.
Because, again, what I said earlier, Chad had everything combined into
Okay,
other.
so this was because of the moving out of,
Yes.
of subscriptions and
Yes.
stuff? Okay. So really this 75 or 72 is gonna really just be one laptop?
Yes.
Okay.
Servers and equipment, we've got 20,000 on there for a Cohesity server, so we're finding ourselves reaching capacity way faster than we should be, just because more and more people are learning to store their documents within the shares. So this quote for 20K would allow us to get a separate server for our backups. So right now, our backups are stored on that same server, and they're what's taking up a majority of the space. So we get a separate server installed, the backups would no longer take the space out of the shares. And then finally, at 24K for workstation and furnishing, that's going to be the computer replacements throughout city. Next year, Windows 10 has an end of life on support. So if you have a computer that cannot migrate to Windows 11 because it doesn't have a TPM chip or because it's missing certain other functions like the CPU is incompatible, it gets left behind and out of support. So the goal is to get any remaining Windows 10 computers that cannot upgrade, switch to a newer computer that can.
And do you know what computers those are?
Yes, yep, I have a list.
Great.
And that, Mayor and Council, is a nutshell of just shy of a 34% increase in IT. But as Zach mentioned, much of that is transferred from other departments and consolidated in one place and added with subscriptions that are unfunded mandates from both state and federal. As an example, the website ADA. Are there any questions or guidance or change requests in the IT? It was my intention to go over the building department this evening, but again, Greg was ill. Last week was a short week and he was ill for about half of that short week. We're currently assembling the data requested by council on building permit rates from surrounding cities. And they're both growing and all surrounding cities so that we can have a good picture. It is my goal, as I mentioned prior, to move closer towards our building department supporting itself. And currently it is not anywhere close to that idea. In speaking with the building official this afternoon, just a cursory anecdotal look, it appears that the closest fee schedule for building permits to ours, we're about half of the next lowest fee schedule. So that, I'm anticipating some significant changes in our budgeting methodology for that department. And once we have that data, I'll be bringing that forward to the council. I will have more moving forward for our next budget meeting next Monday.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Next Monday.
all right.